Okay, and it looks like things are good at my end, so let's do this. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite Xbox centric show on Sunday nights. This is the Xbox Roundtable, show number 225. I'm Invader, and you know what? It is great to be hanging out here with all of you on this beautiful, gorgeous, sunny Sunday. Well, I mean, at least it is here at my end. It's been a beautiful day. Also, happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful moms tuning in. Your efforts are always appreciated. But you know what? For today's show, we gotta touch on a lot of news. There's a lot of stuff that happened the past week. We got some XCloud news, Xbox Live having some issues in some spots, some regions. We will dive into that. Also, Embracer Group making a pretty large purchase, and game DLC skipping Xbox for some reason, some puzzling reason. Well, you know what? We will dive into those things, but first, let me begin by just highlighting and introducing everybody on tonight's crew, starting off with Centurion. Buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It is Sunday, time to talk games, Xbox, everything in between. And man, it's been at least a good week for me on the gaming front. Was able to kind of dabble a lot more into Lego Star Wars. Cannot put down that game. It is my new crack for I guess this month. But one game I think, Invader, that you're going to be interested in that you need to join us for is Strange Brigade. This
Mm-hmm.
game, in my opinion, at least in my opinion, is a little bit of a sleeper. It kind of went under the radar. It really stinks that not. I think I've heard more people talk about playing Aliens Fireteam Elite than Strange Brigade. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand Aliens Fireteam Elite hit a nostalgia thing for me. It was a great game, but I feel like it's empty compared to Strange Brigade. With Strange Brigade, there's a lot more to do in the mission for starters. It's not just run around and shoot stuff and find one random box. There's numerous collectibles in every mission. There's puzzles, there's thinking, there's cooperation. I'm just completely surprised that this game flew under my radar, but I've been having a blast.
All right, I got some time off later this week. Maybe we can hit it up with whoever you've been playing with. I
Oh,
mean,
you know who they are. But yeah, I
oh
already
yeah.
talked to them. Yeah, definitely. They want you to join us.
All right, I'll get in touch with you on that. That's awesome. No, I definitely want to check that game out. It gives me kind of like Vermintide vibes slash like I don't know. I just like those style of games. So yeah, I'm curious to check it out. Heard some good things, and I'm glad you're enjoying yourself there so far. But yeah, moving on down the list here, Eric Shockley, buddy. Great to have you back this week as per usual. How you been?
Oh, pretty good. Um, yeah, not much, not anything. Trying to think if anything other than the news that we're about to go over um, has happened. But uh, yeah, didn't. I don't think I even got to play anything this past week, unfortunately. But yep, I do got my got Tuesday off, so I'm looking forward to probably get some getting back into some games or getting back to finishing Tunic and maybe a few other ones that I'm almost finished with. I did finish Control though. So at least I think I own like the Ultimate Edition, so I think I still have a bunch of like extra mission DLC. But I did finish that finally. But
Can I ask
um
Shockley one question?
Hmm.
Did you go back and get the one the like he was like almost like the one creature you encounter in like the very beginning, and it's
mhm.
like the after the credits roll you can go find him and basically finish the game. Did you go do it?
Yeah, I did that part because at first I was like, oh, I'm done. And I was like, oh, there's just some like thought it was just some end game stuff or something. But I was like, oh wait, I feel like I'm not done.
No, I got to
And then
still
but
do the DLC, but yeah, that I thought that was cool how they snuck that one final boss fight after the credits.
oh yeah, good thing I picked up on it because I was about to uninstall because I was like, yes, I can move this big thing that's taking up all my space in my hard drive. But yeah, but yeah, it was pretty cool. The way they told the story, I don't know if I kept taking breaks on that. Like I
Hmm.
enjoyed the gameplay, but um, But it's good they added some more content because I did not come close to like fully unlocking some of the abilities. I hate when games do that when it's like you don't get even close to unlocking most of your or like getting deep into your abilities before you like finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
otherwise, it's pretty good overall. I'm definitely excited for when they bring Alan Wake back. So, but,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to diving into. I mean, it's probably not coming for a little while, but Alan Wake's up there with one of my favorite games. Like I got all the achievements, all the DLC achievements. I found all those coffee thermoses and pages and whatnot. I was that dedicated. Probably because I was that bored too. But awesome game, anyways. I really enjoyed Alan Wake. Moving on down here, Crusader Pal. Hey, how you been?
I've been pretty good. Was playing a bit of Guardian games this week. It launched in Destiny 2. It's like kind of like the Olympics, but instead of like the different countries, it's the different classes of Guardians fighting against each other, go Warlocks. Um and otherwise I've been playing on my PS3 a whole lot this weekend. I beat Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction today, and I started Ratchet and Clank Quest for Booty, which is the second of the 4 Ratchet and Clank Future series for the PS3. I love them so much. Tools of Destruction is my favorite PlayStation exclusive that's ever released. So I'm having a blast, and I've been adding to my PS3 collection because I don't trust Sony to ever do anything with those outside of maybe make some of them stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know what? You gotta like some of those classics or just ones that are just very tempting to pick up because they're cheap, right? Or
Yep.
or just you're just a collector. I know I've been going through a collector's phase over the past few months. People have seen me posting a lot of OG and Xbox 360 games, just either ones that I made the mistake of selling in the first place and I wanted back, or just other titles that I was just curious about and wanted to have in my collection. So totally get it. But yeah, just so you know, guys, Tim Dog and MLD, they may or may not be joining us tonight. They're obviously it's Mother's Day and they're doing some family things, so they may be around later on. But otherwise, you're stuck with us. I know, but we're a wonderful bunch of fellas, aren't we? And guys, you know what? Let everybody know that we are live now. Share this out, like the video. Let everybody know that you know what, we're about to talk about like the hottest news that went down over the past week with Xbox and just gaming in general, because there was quite a few things. But you know what? Why don't we get it straight into things? Because there is a lot to talk about. And well, you know what? We're gonna like sort of combine a few things. I mean, they're kind of intertwined in some ways. Xbox Live and XCloud. And over the past day or so, some Xbox users have had issues with having access to their games, with prompts coming up saying that the user needs to be online when there's no internet issue whatsoever. Just again, there seems to be some kind of DRM thing going on. It's kind of weird. But Crusader Bud, I know that you have been very, oh, how do you say? I guess the word's passionate about this on social media. I've seen you posting a lot. Why don't you start us off here with your thoughts on this? This whole like, I don't know, people are calling it an outage. Like, what's your take here?
Yeah, so to cover it, so for people who don't know, Xbox Live had some issues that started on Friday and have even gone for some users into today. I think for the most part, it's been cleaned up for the vast majority of people, but I have seen some reports of it still going on today. And it's not that Xbox Live is necessarily down, but it's that a bunch of the different portions of the Xbox services are. So authentication for things like Game Pass or the DRM associated with all of your games, the digital rights management that makes that basically a license that says that you own this, has been failing to authenticate, and users haven't been able to launch their games in all regions. Some people haven't been affected at all. Some people literally haven't been able to play for days, and to say I was very disappointed in Microsoft is an understatement. Microsoft's selling an always digital console. You cannot have an issue where people cannot play their games. And I believe, like, you can set your console to a home console, and that lets you play offline. But what happened this weekend was because you tried to reach out to a server and authenticate, and it came back in an error state, you were able to reach that server. Your console was able to see that you were connecting to an Xbox Live, but because it couldn't pull back the authentication information, it was essentially unable to say that you owned your content. And you could even go out to the store and purchase things in a lot of cases, and it comes back and you can't play it and you just purchased it. And this is really bad. You cannot have this. Xbox's DRM typically for when you have it set to a home console, you have 30 days to play the game offline, and if your console doesn't check back in 30 days, you can no longer access that content. And this is a massive problem in general. And people like Modern Vintage Gaming, MVG, if anyone's heard of him, they've been talking about this for a while. Mr. Matty Plays has been talking about this for a while. And people are really seeing what happens when DRM things go wrong this weekend. And there's about a bunch of people who this didn't happen to. And if this didn't happen to you, I'm very happy. For me, it only affected me for a few hours. But you should know that just because this didn't affect you does not mean this is not a problem. Everyone should be calling on Microsoft, the almost $3 trillion company, to get their shit together here, right? This can happen on other systems with specific games, but on Xbox it happens with every game. Like 95% of the games. I don't know that there is a game on Xbox that's DRM free. There could be, so I don't want to say 100%. But this is a problem that needs solved sooner rather than later. In my opinion, this should be on like the S tier of priorities from Microsoft, right? Like this is a big deal, and this is a news story that's not going to go away for them, because if it happens again, it's only going to get louder.
Right. Well, like you said, I mean, okay, this is happening to Xbox users right now, but again, it's, you know, it happens all across the industry, right? I mean, we can't just point fingers at Microsoft when something like this happens. We see things with PlayStation and their network and different things.
The difference is the scale of DRM here. The Microsoft does have the worst DRM. They're known for it. In everything. It's not just games either. The movies, back in the day when it was the music with groove music, if anyone remembers that. They're DRM obsessive, and it needs to change.
Yeah, I don't know how it's different. Now I can see how it's their system going down, because I don't know the last time PSN like had an issue where their service went down where you couldn't authenticate.
So
because on PS5 still has the thing where you have to restore licenses. Like if it's been too long, you also have to.
Not for all games. That's up to the developer to choose on PlayStation. How the DRM is done.
I mean, probably with some of the biggest games. Like
yes,
when I was game sharing and connected to the internet, my PS4 annoyingly I'm connected to the internet, and even though I'm game sharing, but it keeps like every 30 minutes it kept asking me. Yep. Restore license, restore. I'm like, I just restored the license. Why do you keep asking me to restore the license? It was just kind of annoying because it'd be this pop-up every 30 minutes. And I'm like, I don't get this on anything else. Why is this an issue when I'm connected to the internet? But
it's the scale of it. That's different. And again, game sharing is always going to have licensing things, because you're sharing a license to someone who does not own the license. And so game sharing people were probably the people who were hit the most with this on the Xbox. I believe that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Seems to be that way.
I don't game share, and I was hit, so I know that it wasn't only game sharing people, but for the most part, I've heard that those were the people the most impacted. And that makes sense, because those are when you have to authenticate your license the most. People who aren't game sharing are the ones that have to authenticate the least. So I'm not shocked that that the subset of people who are affected weren't. It's just you can't have this, and you should expect better. Even if it's happening other places, we should expect better from a company that's selling a digital-only console.
Yeah, I think some people are asking like, hey, they have to change it. I'm like, I don't think there's anything they're gonna change if we still want game sharing to be a thing. The thing that they need to improve is not let this have a failsafe. Either have a way to authenticate separately, just like at least for just game licenses, if this goes down. Because same thing, if PSN goes down tomorrow and I was game sharing, I ain't playing nothing on my PS5. You are going to be and I just tested it today. If you disable and make it not your primary PS5, and if you go immediately offline, you cannot launch that game. So it's like all those people game sharing. If PSN also had these issues and went down, they're going to be like, oh my god, DRM. You're going to be having in the same world of hurt as a lot of people are right now with Xbox. So they do need to find a way to like authenticate. Like we're in 2022, so you should be able to. Microsoft owns Authenticator, the main authenticator app most people use. Like let's authenticate that way or something, like some third-party way if your Xbox Live is down or something like that. I mean, that's the only way I can think of it, other than them just getting rid of DRM like GOG. So outside of that, I don't, unless they're going to change policies and like limit game sharing, because I'm pretty sure publishers aren't going to be down for, hey, we're going to not do check-ins and let you game share. They're probably not going to let us do both.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Centurion, just before the show started, you were telling me about some issues you were having. You want to chime in on that?
Well, I had the same issues as everyone else. Like, the funny part is for me, though, I own the home Xbox and the Xbox that is shared because the home Xbox is my wife's. Now, the whole funny part is what's the first reaction when your shared Xbox goes down? Oh, I'm just going to switch over to my home Xbox. Oh, wait, light bulb. I haven't turned it on in 3 months. Not a single one of those games is authenticated in 30 days because the timer ran out on them. So when that Xbox goes to authenticate any game on there, yeah, guess what? Yeah, it's going to do the exact same thing, even though it is my home Xbox. If you want to know one thing, I can handle when Xbox Live goes down and games can't authenticate. My whole life doesn't revolve around gaming. But what really shocks the hell out of me is that when the Xbox Live goes down and it can't authenticate and it can't do anything, you can't even put a movie in it, because apparently the app has to be connected to the internet for you to watch a movie. Even though the drive is in there, the app needs to have an internet connection for it to watch a movie. So for the first time in my life, I'm actually probably going to go out and buy a physical 4K Blu-ray player and have it here in my house just for times when my game consoles won't play the discs because they don't have the internet. That completely blew my mind. But the same thing happens on PlayStation. This is why I'm not up in arms over it. Just recently, the internet went out in my apartment complex and I had the disc to Deathloop in my PS5, but I could not play it because I did not have an internet connection. Couldn't authenticate. I wasn't even able to play. What did I have to do? I had to actually physically offline the PS5, and then I put a disc in for Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then I was able to play like Spider-Man Miles Morales with the game offline. So there was a workaround on the PlayStation, but you had to kind of know the workaround to do it. This is why I'm shocked that game consoles haven't figured this out. But I like how Shockley was talking about, a third-party way. You don't even really need a third-party way. Excuse me. There is a device that we all have that is constantly connected to the internet. Microsoft actually already utilizes these devices to help you set these consoles up faster if you have their apps already installed on your cell phone. And when you set up these game consoles, you actually can go in and send a code to the game console, and it can actually pull your Microsoft account and all this other stuff and set it up with all your preset profiles and everything all through this code. Now, imagine using this system in a situation where Xbox Live is down. And obviously, Microsoft knows Xbox Live is down, so this system can be turned on when Xbox Live is down, or it can be in the background running for those instances that they're unaware of it. But when you go to authenticate a game, if it can't talk to the server, why not all of a sudden, get out the app and say, hey, I need to authenticate a game. And then you go into your app and you select what game you need to authenticate, and it sends out a 6-digit or an 8-digit code, however digits you want, and you put it into the game console, and it's like to be basically it unlocks the game with a user agreement. Um, and it's only able to done in a small capacity. You won't be able to do it for like your entire library, but it gives you chance to access a few games while Xbox Live is down. I'm pretty sure they could have a workaround.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I mean, it sucks that when again we're put into these positions where we just we it just happens to be our free time, and the games that we want to play or whatever we want to get to is just kind of locked behind some kind of wall, and it's like, well, there shouldn't be a reason for this. I paid for this, I bought the game, whether it be digitally, whatnot, and it's not working, and we need that authentication that again Crusader and Centurion were talking about, and it kind of sucks. And some people in the chat are saying that they couldn't play any games yesterday as well. I mean, I think a lot of it's been resolved now, but I still have seen a few issues popping up on social media. I mean, yeah, it sucks, and I really hope that gets resolved, because this kind of DRM, it is an issue, and I agree with what Crusader was getting at, because, these companies are multi-billion, in some cases trillion-dollar companies. They own so much tech. They should have some more workarounds than what we already have. It should be a little, again, easier to access our content, because we pay for this stuff, right? So it should be more accessible, and maybe they could do a little more on their end, to say the least. But that wasn't the only thing that popped up this week as far as Xbox Live and whatnot. There was also XCloud news. And, we'll pivot to this. This past week, we had some interesting xCloud news. Microsoft announced that it has teamed up with Epic Games to make Fortnite the first free-to-play game on the xCloud, Xbox Cloud Gaming, with it now being supported on iOS, Android, and Windows PC, which is, that's pretty darn good considering. Now, Crusader, generally, this is a very positive thing, especially considering the whole Apple and Epic feud. Do you think we'll see more free-to-play games flocking onto xCloud Gaming soon?
So, from what I understand, this service wasn't actually even supposed to launch yet. Microsoft helped Epic get it done fast. Like Microsoft came in and they were having the solution, and I believe they were originally going to launch it with Halo. Like they were going to launch Halo as the first one. Because it's weird, right? You would think that Halo would be one of the first ones. It's Microsoft's go-to free-to-play game, right? And you would think that they would want that in the hands of as many people as possible. But from what I understand, this was kind of a little bit of a slight that for both Microsoft and Epic towards Apple, because this gets Epic back on iPhones. For anyone who doesn't know, Epic and Apple are like at war essentially over Apple's App Store, and Microsoft is not on Apple's side, that's for sure. Because Microsoft was not allowed to have a native xCloud app for similar App Store reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've heard, Fortnite has come first, specifically because they want to kind of show people that maybe Apple's rules are dumb. And what better way to test this overall system than with the biggest free-to-play game on the market? At least in the Western market. There might be a bigger one in China or Japan.
It's pretty massive, though.
It's the biggest game that people who are watching this show are gonna know, right? And this is absolutely huge for the future of xCloud, because in order to do this, you have to have an Xbox account. You don't have to have any services. You don't have to pay for anything. You have to have a Microsoft account, though. and you log in through the same site that you would log into if you were using regular Game Pass. And when people start playing this, it's not going to be as good as playing it native. It never will be. That's just how the limitations of streaming are, because you're never going to be able to have zero latency. You can get latency to a minimum, but you're always going to have a distance between you and that data center that's going to cause some latency, unless we move to quantum computing, but that's like a decade away, at least. So with Fortnite coming onto this, you have one of the most popular games. People are going to be logging in with your Microsoft account. They're going to be going to the XCloud site. They're going to see how this works. Then they're going to go, hey, wait, I could play Doom Eternal this way on my cell phone? Hey, wait, I can play Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on my cell phone? And it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, right? The more free-to-play games that come to the service, because I guarantee more free-to-play games will not only come to the service, are going to be desperate to come to this service. So it's a symbiotic relationship. You're going to have more free-to-play games coming, and those free-to-play games are going to feed into more Game Pass subs that are going to feed into more free-to-play games coming, because it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Why would free-to-play games want to do this instead of having a native app? Well, like I said, the native app will be better, but for every different platform you want your free-to-play game to be on, you have to develop a ported code base to it. Now, not all of them might be too difficult versus another one, but that creates a lot of development overhead, right? Because now I have to maintain an iOS version, I have to maintain an Android version, I have to maintain a Mac version, I have to maintain a Linux version, I have to maintain a Windows version, an Xbox version, a PlayStation version, a Switch version, right? Well, when you're putting it on XCloud, the only thing you have to support is an Xbox version, right? And you can be on any platform that can have a Chromium-based web browser. So that's the two big ones, the two important ones are Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, right? And that's basically almost any real computing device, right? You can put that on a Chromebook. You can put it on the Steam Deck. My friend has Edge on the Steam Deck. I was playing a little bit of Doom Eternal on his Steam Deck yesterday, right?
Oh yeah.
You can do it on a Mac computer. You can do it on a Linux computer. You can do it on your own computer. You could do it on a little tiny $100 Chromebook, right? So the amount of devices you can get access to as a free-to-play game by supporting XCloud is absolutely monstrous, right? So you better believe that free-to-play games are going to want to flock to this, especially since Microsoft is not requiring the subscription for it. Your game is still truly free-to-play. And I think that's... I can't believe that Microsoft is doing this, but when you look at what the potential of it is, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting that they're leading off here with Fortnite. I mean, it is, I thought they would have taken one of their first party titles, but, obviously like Halo Infinite's multiplayer, obviously since it's free to play. But I mean, you have, again, like the biggest game, not just multiplayer game, but yeah, biggest free-to-play title pretty much in the world right now. Well, the past few years, to say at least, Fortnite making its way. It's kind of like one of those things, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of a deal. I mean, Epic and Microsoft they've been pretty good over the years. There might have been one or two things, if I'm not mistaken, that they weren't too chummy on, but overall they get along pretty well. Apple's just been a major dick.
Yeah.
Just they're very protective. I don't even know if that's the word of their store. They're just, I don't know. They're just very weird when it comes. Yeah.
It'll cut into their profits, and that's what they're afraid of. But Microsoft has now come up with a solution that says, hey, it's gonna play through a web browser. And if they try to block this through the web browser on iOS, that will be an antitrust case.
Well, I was about to say, this is like anti-competition.
That will be an anti-competition antitrust case, and it won't be Epic. I mean, Epic's a multi-billion-dollar company. They're worth like probably like $40 billion last I checked. Like
Yeah.
they're a massively valued company because they have the biggest engine that's used across the industry. They have multiple free-to-play, very popular games with Rocket League and Fortnite. They're two of the big ones, and they own Fall Guys now, which is wild.
Oh yeah, I
Like
forgot about that.
you look at the service games that they own, and you're like kind of like wow. But you know, Epic's a billion-dollar company, whereas Apple's a trillion-dollar company. But if they were to try and block XCloud's access through the web browser, they'd be facing an antitrust case not from a billion-dollar company, but from an almost $3 trillion company. And that would be a very, very, very interesting court case to watch. Because I mean, the Apple versus Epic one was already interesting to watch, if anyone watched coverage of it. But and I don't think Apple has the balls to do it. Because I think they know they'll lose if they try to block a website. Does that make sense? Like it won't end well.
Well, it just doesn't. Well, it hasn't looked very good from the beginning, to be honest. So it would just make things worse.
Yeah.
A lot worse. How about you, Centurion? Like, you got any thoughts on this? I mean, it is pretty cool. I mean, again, I'm not a big Fortnite player, but to have like this massive free-to-play game being put on, again, XCloud, cloud gaming, you know, that is a pretty important step. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm cautious. I
Mhm.
enjoy that Xbox is definitely wanting to put Xbox everywhere. They're wanting to push the envelope when it comes to delivering the Xbox ecosystem to the consumer and where they can play. I have taken advantage of this. I even have a Kishi. I take that thing with me. I do play on XCloud when I'm in situations where I can't take my console with me and I'm going to be stuck somewhere overnight. But definitely um I just don't want hardware. I don't want it to take the place of hardware in the end. I'm a big fan of hardware. I really do champion them for obviously breaking down the barrier between the consumer and hardware. Like some consumers just can't afford some of the hardware out there, and this gives another avenue for them to be part of the Xbox ecosystem. I'm excited for what this could mean for us in the long run, especially as the technology improves. But definitely, it's still early to say on how I truly feel about gaming, embracing this side of it. I don't use it very heavily. Like I said, it's great that it's there, but I don't know how I would feel if all of a sudden this became the absolute mainstream.
No, and that's a fair point, honestly. Like, cloud tech still has a ways to go. We're still not there yet, I would say. I mean, I've dabbled in it a little bit. Maybe Crusader, you've had more experience with it. I think I'll always just prefer, like, again, the traditional way to play games. But you know, as time moves on, I think, you know, we'll be playing it more and more as time goes on. Honestly.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't. So the way Microsoft has it set up, it literally at this point can't replace hardware because it's using the same hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like XCloud is like running on like dedicated Azure blades. It's running on a Series X that was modified to sit in a um
That's the one thing that gives me hope on at least Microsoft's side is they have at least found a reason to keep manufacturing the hardware to basically to make it go hand in hand with its existence.
well yeah, and I think they from all of the messaging they've given us, I think they get that um like uh it's going to be just another avenue. Like at least at this time, right? And I see it slotting in very nicely into the common avenues, right? Like, because PCs and consoles never eradicated each other in gaming. Mobile has been around for forever and didn't touch anything. It just slotted in nicely in its own little niche. handheld gaming, the Switch is going unbelievably strong. And I think cloud gaming is just going to kind of slot in with all of this. And like Microsoft's big thing is like, no matter if you're playing on your console, your PC, or in the cloud, your saves go with you. So I think at this time that they are very much in a position where they're like, yes, we're just going to offer as many avenues as we can to touch as many customers as we can in as many play styles as we can.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, absolutely. Eric, I don't know if you want to chime in on this one, pal. Like, what's your thoughts on, again, Fortnite being the first free-to-play gaming experience coming to the Xbox cloud gaming service? Like, also, like, what games do you think that we'll see next hopping on? I mean, is this going to be a huge bridge now that, again, the big elephant in the room, the big free-to-play title Fortnite's joining, everyone's going to start joining now?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely good that they're finding like ways to kind of get around, since Apple's like not wanting to play ball. That's why I'm back with Apple right now, but that's why I'd switched for like the year or two, when they were like, until there was like actual way to go back to XCloud, which there is now. But yeah, I mean it's good to see that they're just incorporating more, whether it's like free to play games that you obviously don't need a subscription for, but just to launch XCloud, and hopefully there'll be some other free aspects of it, because I knew the whole thing of it, you had to have, at least before, you had to have Game Pass Ultimate to access XCloud. But I guess since this one's like a free to play game, this is like kind of taking the motto that they have now with like free to play Halo. Like, you don't need Xbox Live to play free to play games. So, but it's cool that they're just incorporating more into their service. I guess it's definitely how to kind of skirt around Apple even more with Epic, because then people can spend money over there with Epic through Xbox Live versus the App Store. But so maybe a better deal or a better cut. So I mean, it's good for competition in that sense, kind of like how you had the Epic Game Store. I know a lot of people kind of like shitted on it, but it was still good for competition against versus Steam. So
does anyone know, do we get a discount on if you're a Game Pass member, do you get the 10% discount on Fortnite stuff? Has anyone checked?
I'll be honest, I'm not aware. I mean, if
Because
somebody,
like, you know how we get 10% off of like all DLC? Yeah. I'm gonna log in and check and see if that is a thing, because that would be also pretty wild,
right? I mean, if anybody in the chat knows the answer to that, please let us know. Again, like, I'm not really up on all the Fortnite stuff, so please don't run me out in the comments, please. But either way, I mean, it is pretty cool that they have this initiative. And you know what else, guys, too? There's some other like information dropping out too, not just about Fortnite stuff, but there's some reports coming out. One that Microsoft plans to release an XCloud game streaming device, maybe something similar to a Fire Stick and the like. I mean, that would be pretty cool. I think actually we had reported on this maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Xbox was talking about doing some stuff with Samsung, if I'm not mistaken. I know, like, there wasn't too much news about it, but I did see, and I did find it interesting that they were, getting kind of chummy with Samsung and even LG too. There was some stuff with LG. I mean, like, Centurion, what do you think? I mean, we've talked about some of this stuff before. Do you think that Xbox, I'm not sure if actually Phil's talked about it, Phil Spencer. Like, do you think that they'll release like their own standalone little, I think it's called a puck, or like a little like device to stick into your TV, something like that, a little dongle for cloud game streaming?
If you want my opinion, I do not see it being a stick. And that is just because of what I've seen done with Roku devices and other devices like that to have true. So I've overheated a Roku streaming device.
Well, bye.
Like I have literally gotten a message across my screen that says like Roku overheating, I'm shutting down, come back in a few minutes, please. I really do see this as being something that is going to obviously plug into the wall. The TV is not going to power it. It is going to have its own power supply, AC adapter to cool whatever components are on the inside. Just because I'm thinking that this is going to be a heavy load for streaming, but I really do think it'd be a really awesome device, something that I could put in a backpack, take with me, like when I go visit my wife's mother. We go stay in the hotel up there, and the first thing I do is I hook up my Roku device in the back, so that way I can bring my television with me and all the shows I like to watch and all the other services I use. And it would be nice to have. I'm going to be upfront. I'm not a big fan of Roku's interface. It works for me. But if Microsoft was to come out with any kind of a system like that, I'm already familiar with how they like to do their interfaces, and I think it'd be great.
All right. Eric, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, again, we have talked about Xbox possibly making their own streaming stick in the past. Do you think that, again, with more news slowly rolling out about some of their, I guess, Xbox everywhere kind of initiatives, do you think that we'll be seeing, these reports are saying something about maybe a streaming device in like the next 12 months? Do you think that's likely?
Yeah, I would think so, but like the way they're going about with XCloud, I mean, I would have thought it would have probably came by now, but I guess they're still kind of just getting everything ready for infrastructure. But we've heard talks about with Samsung just having everything built in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine this is coming pretty soon for that, casual market that, especially with the chip shortage, that's kind of their way of getting around. Yeah, maybe because like right now we've heard like shortages from like the PS or Sony side with the PS5, and just in the Xbox Series X. So they've been able to produce a lot more 1S's. So it's a way to get more Xbox to get their infrastructure into people's hands. Now, obviously, this isn't going to add to like the console total that people like to uh, or talk about on Twitter of like who sold what, but it does allow people to get into their infrastructure even easier, which just means more money from them since they really don't typically make any profit on the hardware box anyway. So if they can just get more people locked into Game Pass through that streaming stick, then that's a big plus for them. Because even if someone, if a big part of the market has a PS5, if they just buy that streaming stick or have some way of playing it or playing their Xbox games that way, they might be able to get people locked in like with that infrastructure, especially when you like I know myself using the Microsoft reward points where I'm like achievements are literally giving me credit or giving me like money basically to spend back into the store, and it adds up pretty quick, where like I myself just bought Sonic Mania on their full price, all with my Xbox rewards. So you don't get anything close to that on PlayStation. I think they used to have some type of point system, and now I think you only get points if you have their credit card. But so I mean, this just a plus things like that, kind of incentivized to like keep you locked in with their infrastructure. And now Game Pass, where okay, what's new this month, so it kind of keeps you engaged. So this is probably just another great way to kind of like keep that going. But especially with the chip shortages, who knows how long that's going to end, where you're actually going to see like PS5 or Xbox Series X on store shelves, hopefully in the next 2 years. But it feels like that's probably not, that's just hopeful thinking. Probably we thought that by now it would have, we'd be able to walk in and get one, surely. But
right, yeah. Well, I mean, no, you're right, and the chip shortages only seem to be getting Well, I mean, that as the time goes by, it seems to be getting a little worse, with no end in sight. Unfortunately, no relief. But I mean, there are workarounds, and there are other reports of Xbox working closely with Samsung to work on an app for their devices. Again, we reported on that before as well, that they had inked a partnership, like, again, a year and a half ago. So again, if not the like a stick kind of a device to stick into your TV or whatever it may be, it would be an app, which makes a lot of sense. So especially in certain markets, whether it be North America, Europe, especially I would imagine Asian markets as well. A lot of this stuff does make sense, and they are being. It's going to be interesting to see in the next 12 months how aggressive they are with XCloud initiatives. But I mean, either way, guys, it is encouraging that again they are working on different facets of Xbox gaming, XCloud, and I look forward to seeing this tech as it evolves, going again in the next couple of years. But obviously, it won't replace the hardware experience and so on, whether it be PC, console, and so on. It's just a nice companion, I guess you would say, a nice addition. And I hope that technology gets better and better as time goes on. Just again, lots of different stuff that I think is cool and that we have to look forward to. But you know what? Why don't we move over to our next topic? And it's some rather large news. Actually, I mean, we could have started off the show with this news, but it's probably good to start off with like all the Xbox like specific stuff first. But this past Monday, Embracer Group announced out of nowhere that they agreed to buy studios Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal from publisher, well, Square Enix, along with a back catalog of IP, which includes, well, Tomb Raider, for starters, all for the price of $300 million. Wow, I mean, that's a lot of money, but I mean, I would say that they got a nice deal there. I mean, that's amazing. Obviously, there's a lot to extract from this, but I'll go to the panel. I want to get everybody's thoughts. Centurion Pal, I'll hit up you first on this one. And, I gotta admit, there's some nice studios here, some really good IP, some classic IP that everybody would love to see either rebooted or other sequels. Like, what are your thoughts on this purchase by Embracer? Because I know everybody was like, oh, Xbox should go after Crystal Dynamics. They're working closely with the initiative right now on Perfect Dark. I mean, there's a lot to gauge in here, but what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, first thought off top of my head, Embracer Group, if you're listening, please reach down very deep and blow the dust off the Legacy of Kain franchise, please. Awesome set of games. Anyways, so it sucks that Microsoft, I guess you could say, miss out. Would this fit Microsoft's direction? Of course. Even Microsoft is probably like, damn, that kind of stinks. But look at what they're invested in with Activision, which is a much bigger deal, a much bigger slice of the pie, a lot more money, and they don't really want to screw that up. So yeah, they're gonna miss out on deals like this. And that's where we'll probably get into the other half of the question. But let's at least start with this one. This was just for the Western Division. There was a lot of great titles in there for that 300 million. I'm really excited to see what Embracer Group might potentially do. Let's look at what they've done for a franchise that was really not on my radar back in the day, but got put on my radar now. And that was with what is it? Kill All Humans, Destroy All Humans.
Yeah, they did the remake because they own what was it, THQ Nordic? Yeah.
Yep, they own THQ Nordic. So we have already been enjoying what Embracer does for gaming. They're one of those silent, investors, silent operators of gaming. They make really good games. They do publish their own games, but they're not really making a whole lot of waves. And because of this has actually allowed them to grow bigger than Microsoft. Essentially, they own like an unfathomable amount of talent, developers, publishers. What were you gonna say? I'm pretty sure somebody has a number.
Oh no, I was just gonna say
Oh.
it's like something like it's crazy. Don't they own like over
It's
100
70
studios?
It's 72 studios. They want to
Yeah.
have 100 by the end of the year. Or it's 70 something. Last night I thought it was 72. It might be a little more than that. They have 14,000 developers, which was actually a little bit less than what Activision, Blizzard, King, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios will be combined. That's going to be like 17, I think, which also makes them smaller than Ubisoft, which is 20,000. But because their big thing is they're not focused on AAA. They have a lot of AAA. I think they have 30 AAA titles in development. But their biggest source of stuff is AA and indie. They have a lot of very small to mid-sized developers.
That's correct. I mean, they just bought a slew of small developers just a few months ago, such as 3D Realms, which obviously they have a pretty great history with Duke Nukem. They bought Ghost Ship Games, which, I mean, Centurion, we love their game. It's Deep Rock Galactic, for example. I mean, they got some nice IP.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I feel that this Square Enix purchase is actually probably the biggest developer that I could think of off the top of my head that they have purchased at least recently. And now what's interesting about this is Embracer was that guy that didn't really make waves. Well, this was a big wave. They are now on the radar. Other companies know that they're looking for acquisitions. Gaming is in such a state of flux right now that it's honestly it's absolutely a great time to be a gamer. You're seeing a lot of the gaming industry shift, movement, change hands. It's going to be really interesting to see where the cards lie at the end of all this in about 5-10 years. It's going to be great to see what we'll get out of new IP or existing IP and just having some new shine put on it with developers that are very creative and imaginative. It's going to be a very great time to really take part in gaming, what the future has to offer. I know we talked about Microsoft missing out. Now, I love how everybody's all of a sudden circling, talking about, Sony, Sony wanting to pick up the other part of Square Enix that remains to be purchased. But with recent events, I'm kind of wondering if Sony's even going to be able to do that. Was Sony getting ready to do this? Was Square Enix consolidating, trimming the fat, making it to where it was more affordable for Sony? And then out of nowhere, the FTC did the exact same thing to Microsoft. And I mean, it was going to happen just for the money. But I mean, now that PlayStation is pretty much in the same category as Xbox, I'm pretty sure at this point PlayStation has to cool its jets. And I'm curious now on what's going to happen to the other half of Square Enix.
So, what I'll say to you about that, Centurion, is because Square Enix and Sony are both Japanese companies, the only thing that the FTC could really do in this kind of deal to block it is to make them give up their holdings in the United States, which they just did. So,
fair enough. No, that's a valid point.
Now, it's hard to say. They may still make them make concessions on sales in the United States and stuff like that, but they don't have a lot of power to stop this kind of deal. Like if they were going to try to acquire, heck, the FTC doesn't have that much power at all.
Now, but would they want to do anything that could potentially cause them to want them to unravel the Bungie agreement?
I don't know. I feel like Square Enix would be more important than that, to be honest with you. So that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I just don't think
Square Enix has been there to cover your butt in the past, But Bungie represents your future for games as a service.
It's true. That's very, very true. That's really hard to say. Because you wouldn't want to let Square Enix get away, you know? So that's really tough because Square Enix makes a lot of some of their most popular exclusives on the system. I would say timed exclusives, but they haven't come to Xbox yet. So, you know, who knows what's going on with Final Fantasy. Like they're listed as others think Sony's headquarters is not in California. PlayStation's headquarters is in California. Sony's headquarters is in Japan. I made that mistake myself too once upon a time, and I was corrected. This is this was really. Does anyone know where under Embracer Group these are falling? Is this going to be a new division under Embracer Group? Am I going to have a 10th publisher to keep track of under Embracer Group?
It might be. Well, actually, you know what? That's a great question. Or they could just be their own separate filing of studio. Like, it's interesting how they're going to be.
Are we going to see Eidos return? Like the Eidos publishing group?
That's interesting.
Before Square bought them. Because, like, I mean, they've made 2 other really big acquisitions in the last, like, 15 months. Because they bought Gearbox. That was wild.
Yeah, Saber. Didn't they buy Saber Interactive as well?
That was a long time ago, but yeah, they owned Saber Interactive.
I completely forgot about Gearbox.
Yeah.
And the other thing they bought, which is a big deal for gaming, but it's not a studio. They bought Dark Horse.
Yes.
Oh, dude, that's right. Dark Horse Comics. So I'm wondering, does that mean they own the Spawn IP, or did that finally? Oh, because I was going to say Spawn was under Dark.
As well.
Okay, so that actually opens some interesting avenues when it comes to licensing and publishing games.
I don't think a lot of people realize how big Embracer is going to be in the coming years.
Yes, Embracer is going to be what we think of. See, the weird thing about Embracer Group is they keep the identities of each of their acquisitions for the most part. So, like, when you hear stuff at showcases, you don't hear Embracer Group being mentioned as a partner in the showcase. You hear THQ Nordic, or you hear Saber Interactive, or Koch Media, or Gearbox, right? Like, you know, Embracer Group. You're not gonna hear news about Embracer Group unless it's a purchase. You'll hear it about the subsidiaries, and that's kind of like their Trojan horse into your brain, right? Like, no one really even thinks of them as this giant, you know? They've been a giant for 2 years, and I think they said their ultimate plan is to have 150 in-house studios, and then like Dark Horse can use any of these IPs as you know, they can use any of these IPs for like the comics. Vice versa, any of the comic IPs can be used for stuff. I have a feeling that they will try and buy a small film studio too.
They might.
I wouldn't be shocked if we heard. Have you heard of Nordic Film?
Yeah.
Nordic Film owns Avalanche Studio Group, which is Avalanche Studios and a couple other studios. It's the Avalanche Studios that's making Contraband. They also made The Hunter Call of the Wild, or whatever it's called. It's that hunting game that's on Game Pass. And they made Second Extinction.
Yeah, that's correct.
I would not be shocked to hear that they purchased Nordic Film so that they can have a TV film, comic book, and video game coverage.
And when you look at the IP that they acquired from Square Enix...
It's insane.
Yeah. Tomb Raider, Legacy of Kain, Thief, Deus Ex. Actually, didn't they say something about 50 IP or something crazy?
It's 50 IPs that they got in that acquisition, I believe. The ones that they didn't get what is it? It's the game like the game before Tell Me Why.
Life is Strange?
Life is Strange. They didn't sell Life is Strange.
And they didn't sell Just Cause.
They didn't sell Just Cause,
and they still own Outriders.
Yeah, well, that situation's really funky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not 100% sure on the ownership of that. They stated they own it, but People Can Fly also stated that they own it. So I don't know what's up with the situation with Outriders, but they're still publishing Outriders.
Maybe
they didn't sell the publishing.
Did they get Sleeping Dogs?
I believe so.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Can you imagine that Sleeping Dogs sequel? That'd be
I
awesome.
I just started that the other day.
Oh, it's fun. I'm a few hours into it. I don't know. I like it. I like it. It's a nice game.
But yeah, no, like Embracer Group is absolutely wild, and it's going to be a wild trip because they really still don't like they're like the size of like like Ubisoft and EA when you think about them, but they're also not. I don't think they're going to make the like breakaway hits that like your Call of Duties, your Battlefields, and stuff like that.
No.
I think they're just going to swarm you with so much content.
Well, it depends where they want to go with this because they have so much content here that I don't want to say it's quantity over quality because there's a lot of quality things here. I mean, they got 4A Games, which makes the Metro games.
Yep.
I could just go through all of this. They got Deep Silver, which has Dam Buster Studios, Volition.
Saints Row.
Yeah, Volition that does Saints Row, Flying Wild Hog, which just released Shadow Warrior 3. Again, guys, I could go on and on. They own so many studios. It's mind-boggling. You'd have to take a look at the list. And again, they've stated that they still want to buy studios. So, everyone's like, oh, who's Embracer? Who's Embracer? Well, they're the guys who have all the money, besides Microsoft at the moment, that are gobbling up anybody and everybody. I mean, again, it's not just Sony that's getting involved here. I mean, we got other publishers really investing in their back catalog. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if they had their own subscription service at some point, just for all their titles. I mean, they have a plethora of games. I mean, well, not only that, actually a subscription service. I mean, you were talking about, like, again, Dark Horse Comics as well, Crusader.
Yeah, because you could do the Dark Horse, because they have a digital service, don't they? Like Dark Horse does?
I believe
for
so.
comics?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could have that coupled in, and then you could have, like, if you did stuff with Nordic Film, and they got Nordic Film, like I'm saying, that would be a great option for them to look into, right? Like, Embracer Group is going to be a force to be reckoned with. This generation. My takeaway from this is, don't be sad when a studio gets bought by someone that you don't know. The industry is in the biggest form of change that we've seen since Sega got out of the console business. Right? We're at that kind of upheaval in the industry. The old guard is being split up and absorbed into itself, and the new guard is coming in because we also have Focus Home on the field now. The people that make Plague Tale, they're getting pretty big too. They're buying up studios. CD Projekt Red is buying up studios and is trying to become its own publishing group.
That's right.
So in 5 years, the big publishers that we think of are going to be completely different this time. Like, cause we're just seeing a complete transformation of the industry. And we're seeing tons of new studios form too. It's not like we're just getting compaction or companies being bought up and sold. We've seen, I think in the last like 3 years, we've seen like 25 new AAA studios founded, independent, and it's going to be great. I'm excited.
Yeah, there's a heck of a lot going on. I've been saying that for the past couple of years now, that again, the industry is ever changing at the moment, and we're going to see consolidation in some ways with all these big publishers gobbling up large studios, small studios. Again, it's going to be about who has the biggest library soon. Eric Pal, I mean, what do you think about all this? Like, again, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and so on. Square Enix Montreal. I mean, these are some pretty significant studios that just got gobbled up by Embracer. Do you think that Microsoft would have been interested in this, or like were they just held up by the whole Activision Blizzard situation at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think they, or at least most of us thought they would be, because most of us thought we were like, oh, trying to space out on it. Now I'm losing the name. The studio hoping for
Well,
Perfect Dark, Crystal Dynamics.
yeah,
We thought maybe that would be like a tryout period. With like, oh, okay, probably if that works out, they'll probably just, hey, you guys don't seem to really like them or
well, that was the
use them that well over there.
consensus, right? That was a general
Yeah.
consensus that, it was going to be a tryout period, and obviously Xbox likes Crystal Dynamics and, well, the Tomb Raider IP in general, so I thought they would have gone after it personally in a heartbeat, but something must have slowed them down.
Yeah. Like they could totally still like poach the talent while they're like hey to come over if that's whatever they want to try to do with the initiative, if they're supposed to be big or if at some point or they want to build it up. But I mean, it's good for those devs too, because it just seems like Square didn't really know what it wanted from their Western division, and they kept putting them on licensed projects, which might not, versus like them doing their own thing. So I think it's probably good for those devs, because then now they get to, hey, if you want to go back to some of those IP, you can. If you want to make something new, we're funding it. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is an interesting situation because for a while there were rumblings out of Square Enix. There's even been interviews with former key personnel at the studios, like Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, and so on, that again Square Enix just didn't have a good feel for its Western studios. They would purchase these studios, but they didn't really know what to do with them. The interactions with them weren't great per se. There are some really interesting videos on this deck, to be honest, but a lot of people were wondering, did Square Enix really care about having them? And there was always questions, were they going to sell them off and so on. It's just interesting to see this all unfold, not just one of the studios, two of the studios, but all of them just get snatched up, plus those IP. It just kind of makes you wonder again where, I mean, obviously Square Enix is going in a different direction now. I mean, I know that they said they wanted to focus on like some upcoming tech, like again some blockchain technology and so on, and they wanted to explore some other avenues. And it also seems like they wanted to explore, or not explore, but they wanted to double down on their Japanese studios as well, and also like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and so on. It's just interesting, the timing of all this, because it's funny that somebody brought up Sony too, because guys, there was reports that again Sony was there was big rumors going about that Sony was going to buy somebody big, and everyone's like, well, who could it be? And according to a couple of sources, it's supposed to be Square Enix, but again, with them the FTC kind of being interested in their purchase of Bungie, I mean, that could slow them down too. I mean, this whole thing is just very, very interesting. Like Centurion, like I got to admit, I'm kind of interested to see how this goes. Do you think that this really, like, because of the Sony situation, that this just slows down a potential buy from Sony for Square Enix?
See, that's what Crusader and I were kind of like in the beginning there hinting at, is I really don't know, man, because holy cow, that Square Enix represents a little bit of the past of how PlayStation got to be where they're at. I mean, the games that Square Enix has given PlayStation exclusivity to, Square Enix has supported PlayStation and has been there for them in the past in very big ways. But Bungie represents the future of what PlayStation aims to achieve with games as a service and creating a service based subscription service that you guys want to keep tuning back into. And games as a service probably plays a fundamental role of that. And it's just very interesting on which side is Sony going to pick, or do they have all their ducks in a row where they could potentially, not bat an eye at, the FTC wanting to talk to them about Bungie and also picking up another company. But like Crusader said, technically they just did sell off their Western side of their company. So now they're more of a foreign entity. Does the FTC have any room there? Probably not. And also, like,
It's not that they don't have none. They still operate in the United States. Like, they still sell things. But it's not nothing, but it's not the same as if they were.
well, and that's where also I don't want to be calling out smoke where there is no fire kind of thing. It was guaranteed the FTC was going to review the Activision purchase with Microsoft, and it was probably more than likely a guarantee that that they were going to check out the Bungie and Sony thing. We were just blinded by the Activision thing, but we're still talking about billions of dollars, and the FTC is taking a big interest in digital companies right now making purchases like this. So I think no matter what, Sony knew that they were going to probably get looked at by the FTC. So they could potentially have their ducks in a row. Jim Ryan, I'm going to tell you right now, he does not know how to speak to the gamer. He is probably not a gamer, but he is a damn good businessman, and he probably knows what he's doing right now. He probably is helping figure out a good strategy on how you could potentially navigate the waters of the FTC with Bungie and also still pick up Square Enix's Eastern Division.
Yeah, and we had rumors of the. Does anyone remember last year where there was a Bloomberg report that said that Square Enix was looking to either sell itself or parts of its divisions?
Yeah, I remember some rumblings about that.
Yeah, I still think that report was true. Square Enix came out and said, no, we're not, but they have to legally. I still think that they've been looking into this, at least internally, for a while. That facts are facts. Square Enix has not been doing very well financially.
It was a little mind blown that they did piecemeal the company. I will say that I was a little shocked when I found out. I was like, whoa, they sold the Western Division as a whole. So the Eastern Division, I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming.
Well, again, it does look a little obvious now. Again, the rumblings were there.
Yeah, and the Western Division is not nearly as financially stable as the Eastern Division is. That's a fact. I mean, they've released very detailed financial documents for specifically whatchamacallit, the Crystal Dynamics and Eidos. And I think Eidos was only operating at like a 0.36% like profit, and Crystal was like 3%, when a AAA studio is expected to be around 15%.
Who did Babylon's Fall?
That was Platinum Games.
Yeah.
Are they considered part of the? They can't be considered.
They
part
are
of the
independent.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are being published by Square.
Because I read a horrible article today. I guess apparently
they were down to 0.
They're sharpening the nails for that coffin, I guess.
Yeah. They were at 0 concurrent users on Steam.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about Platinum Games, how they're very hit and miss in a lot of ways, and again, you can fault them for a lot of things, and again, I would like to see a certain game get revived by them, and I am interested by all the talk, but again, Square Enix is the one that like rubber stamps everything in the end, and it's not looking too good for that game.
That game never should have become a service game. It looked good when it was not.
Yeah, well, again, even when I look at the details in it right now, it's just like everything just looks kind of off. I mean, the art style's interesting. I do kind of like it. It's kind of like cartoony, like Art Nouveau in a lot of ways. It's interesting, but it also seems just kind of off too in some of the details, and I don't know. I don't know how that game just got off of just got released. Oh, it just seems
a service
wrong.
Game with no identity. It has literally 0 identity to it, Like, Destiny has a massive identity to it. Warzone, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Halo Infinite even has a great identity to it, Like, very different from everything else. And you just see Babylon's Fall, and you're like, I guess it's different, but how, like, why do I want to play this, Like, it looks so generic.
Mm-hmm. You see, Outriders, for example, I actually really enjoyed. It wasn't perfect by any means, and I know people had issues, but I actually thought that the gameplay loop was a lot of fun.
You getting the expansion?
I haven't thought about it, to be honest.
I still need to play Outriders, but I'll probably pick up the expansion after I play the original game, but I'll probably pick it up on sale. Outriders, at least the concept for me was enough to hook me. It just really sucks that game turned out the way it did. I mean, I bought it. Even knowing it was coming to Game Pass, I still bought it. And yeah, it sucks that it turned out the way it did.
I bought it on sale a couple months ago. I played it at launch, liked it at launch, was frustrated with the bugs, but liked it a lot. Story was all over the place, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Steve, my shortcoming with games like that is I have an amazing group of friends that I play with on the regular, and we can make the most trashiest game
Yep.
absolute fun, and that's where it can become sometimes deceiving.
Yep.
All right. Maybe we should all play it sometime. Just give it a go. That'd be cool.
A new character, I'd be down.
Oh, yeah, I'm down.
All right. Maybe sometime this week. So Centurion, I got to hit you up for 2 games. 2 games now. All right.
Yeah, man. I'll have to pack some Red Bull.
Well, it does give you wings, right? But again, this situation with Square, I'll be curious to see in the coming months if Sony does get a hold of them at some point, or if government authorities kind of step in before that. But I don't know. I think the writing's on the wall with that. I am curious again that, all the signs did seem to point to Crystal Dynamics kind of possibly going over to Xbox Game Studios at some point. There did seem to be a lot of interest there. And I know that Xbox does genuinely like the Tomb Raider IP. I mean, they've previously gotten DLC, like exclusive DLC for the Tomb Raider reboot, and then even the the Rise of the Tomb Raider, they had a year exclusivity on that a lot of people didn't like, I remember. But they've always had an affinity for Lara Croft and Tomb Raider. I'm just kind of surprised that they didn't pursue that, especially guys. Probably the biggest surprise here, that I'm surprised that it went for so cheap, $300 million for all those IP in the studios. Like,
I think a lot of that has to do with the economics. Like those studios are barely break even.
Right.
That hits a lot. Because it's gonna be, and they don't have games. Neither of them have games that are releasing soon. Guardians just released, and Marvel's Avengers also just recently released. So like, they're not going to be profitable for a long time.
And everybody keeps trying to throw Tomb Raider's name in the ring, and it's just like, dude, Tomb Raider, the remakes were awesome. The relaunch of the entire series, groundbreaking. But let's be absolutely honest. They have not. Tomb Raider has not delivered a nuke to the ecosystem in a very long time to basically, I feel like, I know, kind of make it as where it's now a tentpole franchise. It's regretfully not been used in a heavy manner to where I don't even know where Tomb Raider really falls on the totem pole of quality anymore.
Well, again, I'd be curious to see where they would take it now that they have the financial backing behind them. Plus, as I believe it was Crusader that stated earlier, Embracer Group seems to be very hands off with its studios and lets them continue with their identity. Just, again, they give them money. I'd be curious to see again how they pursue Tomb Raider and grow it from where it is now that they don't have, again, a publisher that doesn't necessarily care so much. So we'll see how that goes in the long run. And I'll be curious to see again if they form their own kind of publishing division underneath Embracer Group, or if they're just, again, they just remain like all separate entities. We'll have to wait and see about that and all the details. But I know a lot of people have been really chomping at the bits for a new Legacy of Kain game, like you were saying, Centurion, and, well, a slew of others, Deus Ex, and so on. Yeah.
Actually, for me, Legacy of Kain was good. But for me, what really struck a chord was Soul Reaver.
Oh, yes.
Those games were absolute fun.
Well, again, time will tell. But if I'm not mistaken, some of those reports that were coming out that were detailed from Embracer we might not have to wait too long for some of that to happen from the looks of things. But again, time will tell on that. All right. You know what, guys? We will move on to the final topic tonight. And a few days ago, indie studio The Game Bakers announced a new DLC for its game Furi, which has been out for, I think, 6 years, something like that. I know the title. I haven't played it, but I know a lot of people that like it. It's a pretty cool, colorful indie game. Well, anyways, the DLC is set to come out for every platform but Xbox. And the reason being, well, the studio said that the game just didn't capture attention on Xbox and that they couldn't find the time and budget for the DLC port. Ooh, I don't know. I don't know about that. It doesn't sound right. Eric Shockley, pal, like, what do you think of this announcement and commentary from the developer? Because, I mean, I have seen disappointment from Xbox Furi owners on this. Like, what are your thoughts on this? You know, is because when you see these kind of statements that, you know, it's coming to every other platform but this one, it just doesn't seem like they're putting a lot of effort here.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. Especially like they just put their game on Game Pass, their Haven, their most recent game, and got a bag, you know, from Microsoft. So it seems weird to like, hey, we just released our game on your service and now we're just gonna like shun you guys from free DLC. Like, how much are you really breaking the bank? I get if it was like a Switch port, because you probably actually really put a lot more work into porting, but we know these consoles are so close to like basically almost off the shelf PCs at this point. And it's not like it's like a crazy intensive. I mean, I've never played it, but from it being an indie game, I don't think there's like so much into it that you can't like port it. And you already have the game on the system. It's more just the DLC for the game that you already built. So that seems weird. But yeah, I wonder why it didn't maybe capture near the audience. Let's see, because it launched on PlayStation and PC in the dead of summer, but there's nothing to play in 2016. And then on Xbox, they decided they were going to release it, I don't know, the first week of December, up against, you know, even Titanfall didn't make it that year. So,
yeah.
So like, yeah, with Battlefield 1 dropping that year, a new Call of Duty, and Titanfall, and you had Watch Dogs 2, and a bunch of other things. Yeah, not many, especially for a new developer. It'd be one thing if like another great indie that came out that year, Inside. Well, people know of the people making Inside. It's been at E3, prior E3 shown off, but also because they were established indie dev with a successful game with Limbo. I've never even heard of this game up until this week. So, and that's the other thing. A lot of Xbox people wouldn't probably have been paying attention to any buzz it would have gotten from like PC and PlayStation users, because Inside just dropped on as a timed exclusive on the Xbox platform the week before. So people were all about playing that. And that's the other odd part is they're like, yeah, it didn't garner like that big of a fan base. I'm like, you literally gave it to every PS1 or not PS1 but PSN user. It was a day one drop into PSN. So you literally, so all these people that are like, oh man, see, Xbox people don't buy the games. And I'm like, how many of you actually bought that game and don't just have it as a free game in your library?
Like, oh, did it actually drop as a free?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Day one.
Yeah, it was like Snacks, like similar to the situation.
Didn't do that for Xbox, mind you, in a very crowded, busy holiday season. And people were like, well, you had 6 years to buy it. I'm like, that's not how that works. Once it comes off the new releases and you go past the store, people aren't looking for that game. They're not spending their money on that game during that part of the holiday season with all those different AAA games dropping. And then months later, well, the game didn't sell that well, so it's not going to be in the bestseller section, or the new release section is going to be buried. So you're not going to find it a year later, 2 years later, that's not going to matter. You're not going to see it. I just heard of it from this past week because I didn't play it. And I blame Destiny because I blame Destiny on not playing a lot of games this past generation. But
Oh
like
boy,
that
do
part,
I feel that.
I missed the whole Halo 5 multiplayer. All my friends jumped off of Destiny. I stayed on like, I got to do hard mode Taken King. And they jumped off. And then by the time I switched over, they were done with Halo 5 multiplayer. I'm like, well, I guess I missed that whole but yeah, I think this, and that's, I saw some people said, well, this is just kind of sour the well in a sense, because you're, kind of pissing off people. Like you're getting money, so I don't understand. I don't think they're struggling. Like they're doing well enough that they, made enough that they're going to go back to a 6-year-old game and release free DLC. So I don't know, why don't they just like, I don't know, charge $5 for it? Because it's supposed to be free apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you could have, but I think that's a smarter play. Like, hey, $5 DLC, cool. You would have made enough money, to fund the port or fund the DLC port for Xbox, versus like shunning them, making it a whole big bad PR stink where people will get pissed off and be like, cool, not going to play that, game that, or they don't even download your game in Game Pass. And then don't even like, oh, I'm going to make sure I don't play your game, period. Like people get pissed off about that. But I mean, I hope, luckily they're on all those other platforms, so they should be fine. But I think that's just a bad decision. But, I'm sure it's hard running a studio or indie studio, but I'm like, that's some bad PR right there.
Yeah, well, again, I don't pretend to be a developer or know the things that go on in a studio. Obviously, again, there are things that we are not aware of as just general consumers, right? What happens in the studio and so on. But
I think it's the way they worded it, though. It's like, people were like, they could have just said, at this time, right now, we don't have, the funds to hit every platform. And right now, those are the, we had to make, people understand. Like, okay, cool, it's not 100%. Maybe we'll get it in the future. Maybe if they do. But they were kind of like blaming, like, well, since you guys didn't really, pick up on it, we're not going to. It sounded like you're not even. It kind of made it sound like you're not going to even put any of your future games over there. So, like, cool, we didn't get support from you guys here. Cool. Well, we may not support you, period, coming, or, games coming to the Xbox platform. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I could understand if it was on limited platforms, like, okay, it's only on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but it's on, if I'm to recall, it's on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and Switch was a great example because when it dropped in early 2018, there wasn't shit to play. Like there was they don't get third-party games, so it's like that's why indies do well, because people were just waiting for the first-party Nintendo games.
Yeah.
So what else are they gonna play? I downloaded like old Neo Geo games in between that time because I was waiting on whatever the next Nintendo exclusive would be, because they didn't get anything else on that platform. They're getting a lot more now, but like it was bare bones at that point, early 2018.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, they do have a couple of games I'm curious about, but you're right. It's been dreadful waiting some time for some stuff. I'm looking at you, Metroid Prime Trilogy. But Centurion, I'm curious about what your thoughts on this are, because, again, it's easy to come down hard on some studios if, we don't like what they're necessarily stating. But like, what's your take on all this? Like, do you think they're doing something wrong here, or is it just really a case of they just don't have like the resources or time to put in any effort into an Xbox port of this DLC?
Well, I loved hearing Shockley's passion. I mean, he made a lot of good points. I have to agree with him in a lot of ways. I mean, it's very interesting that they're able to do all this on other platforms, but for some reason, Xbox they could not. Um, you know, th- I could sit here and try to pretty much make the same points that Shockley did, but I don't want to, I guess, regurgitate the conversation. um, for me though, I want to point out one thing that does have been circling around in the back of my head is this game is one not been on my radar. Did not know what this game was until it came up. Read the news articles. You guys were talking about it, and the one thing that in like my mind is this something that the developer wanted to do? Because no, there's like no better news, like bad news. I mean, everybody. I mean, look at how drama and bad news can completely spin someone's content creation direction in YouTube and other channels by just having a little bit of drama. This is interesting that the developer has created this situation. Maybe they truly do not have the money. Maybe they feel that the Xbox ecosystem is not worth their time, or maybe this is just something that they have decided to try to weigh as a calculated way of basically creating hype for a game that is years old, released a long time ago on other platforms, and maybe this is just a great marketing stunt.
Oh yeah, and that's a possibility too. And again, I'm not trying to necessarily knock the developer by any means. I mean, if that's the case that they just don't have the resources or the time for it, I do get it to a certain point. It just, again, at the same time, it's like you were literally doing it for every other platform, but Xbox just, just doesn't look too great in my opinion from that angle. How about you, Crusader? What's your take on this? I mean, Shocks had some interesting points. Centurion there had some nice additions there. What's your take?
So I had never heard of this game, and I still don't know what the game is. What is the game? Can someone describe it to me? Like, it's an indie game. What do you do in it? Is it like a shooter? Is it a platformer? Is it a side scroller?
I feel like the whole room just looked at Shock.
I have no idea.
I'm in the same boat as you. Just heard of it until
Okay.
I didn't even know who the game bakers were either. So I didn't. But maybe this is publicity.
I don't really care, if I'm gonna be strictly honest. When you look at how well the ID at Xbox program is doing and how well indies do on Game Pass and how well indies have just been doing on Xbox in general, because, I mean, there was that whole thing last year about, do you guys remember when the indie developers got really mad because, like, there was a bunch of things on PlayStation that they were really upset about? It was a whole big kerfuffle.
Like how there's
on
not
Twitter.
an easy way to like find their game, or they
Yeah, that they can't, like, they can't put the games on sale when they want, stuff like that. Like, I don't really care. It's a game that released before the era of Game Pass. It's a game that released before Microsoft's marketing got gigantic and enormous. Microsoft's like marketing has gone up like 3,000-fold for like every game under the sun. It seems like 2018. There's an Xbox Wire for basically every game that's releasing on the platform. You know what I mean? Like, and this feels like a game that was a victim of the time on Xbox when it released, the victim of how it released on other platforms first. It released before the era of Game Pass. It released, I feel like this is, I don't have their analytics. I can't tell you how well the game did on Xbox versus the other platforms. Maybe it did do really significantly better on other platforms. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. The Xbox One at that time definitely had like half the install base of the other platforms. Like, when I hear that some developers are skipping the platform, it doesn't. Well, it hurts me, because I want Xbox to be doing as good as possible. It doesn't shock me, and I think I said something online along the lines of, we're gonna see a few more small developers leave before we hear about more of them coming. And it's just Xbox got to build its consumer base up. And that's all it is. Over the course of this generation, they're going to build their consumer base up to definitely beyond what the Xbox One was. Hell, they already did it in Japan. The Xbox Series X has already outsold the Xbox One's lifetime sales over there. It all comes down to numbers. Like, it's gonna come down to how many consoles, how big of a platform they can get it to be. And uh, I think we'll hear a couple more of these one-off stories, and then we're gonna hear about how well some of the indies are doing. Like there was that whole conversation about Trek. I can't think of the name. I'm exhausted tonight. Trek with Naomi.
Yeah, to Naomi. Yeah, something like that.
There was the whole kerfuffle over
Trek to Yoni.
like go buy it,
Right.
and it was just like, okay, it's on Game Pass, I'm gonna play it there. And the one developer came out and said that they get paid so handsomely that like it's a massive profit for an indie to be on Game Pass. Like, we're gonna see more and more of those stories over time, and less of these stories. This doesn't concern me. I think that if anything, they're gonna do better on the Xbox platform now than they were, because people are hearing about the game now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't think that this is anything to be concerned about at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was such a blown out of proportion fanboy war argument that it shouldn't have even been a real headline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, small indie dev can't afford to put thing on platform isn't not a new headline. Happened before to every system, and it's gonna happen in the future to every system.
People shouldn't be that upset anyway, because like they didn't say they're not bringing. They've already brought Haven. They didn't say like, hey, it's not a viable platform anymore. For now, we're not bringing our next game or whatever to the platform. So this is a 6-year-old game that they're just adding free DLC to. So
it's such a weird story.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I mean, I'll admit, I just don't want it to become like something that's gonna pop up more and more as time goes on. But I agree with you, Crusader, that I mean it is like it is being used in like console war stuff, and I don't like that one bit, right? Especially when we are seeing Xbox do extremely well going into this generation.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Game Pass, I'm like, Game Pass didn't exist.
Yeah, that was a take. I'm not gonna name the person who said it. He's a good writer. I like the content he puts out on the site he writes for.
Imran Khan.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna. I do like his stuff.
Maybe they did garner a base and did have a decent amount of sales, but maybe we know all the gamers at that moment were over their PlayStation. Just in 2016, Xbox was a bad spot, different spot 6 years later. But maybe if they didn't put it in PS Plus day one, maybe they would have gotten more sales. I don't know. The whole Game Pass effect. It's scripted. Yeah. No, that
argument
the Game Pass that
also made me frustrated.
Yeah.
And
I love the whole Outriders thing with Game Pass too. It's like,
I mean, you guys saw my post.
Who was
going
to play Outriders before it got announced? I heard people talking, like in the whole gaming Twitter arena. People were talking about, oh yeah, did you play the demo? Yeah, just kind of like this, whatever Gears kind of like game. People were like, yeah, it was okay, whatever. I didn't hear many people at all. I know Centurion bought it, but like a lot of people were like, just
I
like,
was too, but I like looter games, so like it's where I'm gonna go.
But at that moment, before they announced that, you didn't hear that much. But once it got announced, everybody was like, oh, Outriders going there day one. Maybe I'll check it out. And it got a ton of publicity, which also helps them sell on PC, PS5. Like you're getting so many people, every thread was all about it, because you had so many people just playing it day one through through Xbox, that all that timeline, everybody's checking it out. But that's not why they're struggling. They struggled because they didn't follow up on, hey, we might need more servers if we're going to drop this AAA looter shooter in Game Pass day one. Oh, we don't have enough servers. Everything's crashing. People and Lord Cognito lost all of his loot.
Yeah.
He was,
Oh yeah, I
you know,
remember.
and he has a good big enough platform that people, I'm sure, were probably reaching out to him, be like, and he never even got his loot bag. I don't think he ever went back to the game. But you had all of that mishap, and that's why I had no. And plus, he had that one class that was like way overpowered, and the class I picked that was a lot of fun to play was like doing nothing in damage. I'm like, yeah, this isn't worth my time.
Yeah, man, you're really making me want to play Outriders again. Damn.
It's fun, but I was
Mhm.
just like, man, this is like the Division all over again. If you're not the technician class, there's like you just make. They didn't think that they just needed to calibrate that a little bit better and balance the classes a little, because I was like, oh, that seems like the most boring. But I should have known from my Division days, like, oh, that's going to be like the most overpowered class.
From what I understand, they've actually fixed a lot of that now.
Oh, okay.
So, they nerfed everything to the ground and then buffed everything back up. Was how that game went. Took like 3 months, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely need to get back to that game. But
What class were you?
I forget the specific name. It was like, if I said the green one, would you know what I'm talking about? Like the toxic kind of one. Yeah.
I think so. I was like what was it? Like the I don't know, the one, the like, if you would say like the Thing or the Hulk smash.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Like
I love that part because you were just like supposed to be this tank, and then later you find out in the higher tiers, you guys not really a tank. You should have picked the that overpowered class.
Yeah, the Trickster, I think is what
I
it
was
was
like,
called.
what?
The one.
Yeah, Trickster. I picked the one where you just go in there and just you have like rock armor, and then
Yeah.
that one was a ton of just fun to play in like those earlier tiers of the game. I had a blast. And then when I got into those
Oh.
higher tiers, it was like, yeah, I don't have a squad, and this isn't as fun right
Here we
now.
go. I was the Technomancer. So it's like long range supporting gadgets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of fun, I really enjoyed that. I was just like screwing around. I'm like, I'll try something different for a change. And man, oh man, I was just, I don't know, I was just having loads of fun.
They had some cool ideas. Like you'd have that, like my character would have all that rock armor. I love I could stop bullets like I was Neo. And then after you start collecting them, and then you just throw all those bullets back at him, and takes out like half the people. I was like, this shit is sick. And then those later tiers happened. I was like, yeah, I'm doing no damage, but sweet. Plus connection issues. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna just stop.
Right? I mean, the plot was kind of, well, I wouldn't say all over the place, but it was kind of, I don't know. It was kind of weird in some spots, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad by any means. It's just I went over to other games, and then I just kind of forgot about it, to be honest. That's why when you were asking about the if I was gonna grab the expansion Crusader, I was like, I had not thought about it. Not thought about it. I haven't even beat it. I think I'm like, I don't want to say
Is it
halfway
free?
through. Oh yeah, is it free, right?
I think it's $30.
I mean, we all played it for free, I guess. But
Yeah.
Actually, regretfully, Outriders World Slayer is 20% off, and it's $48 with that 20% off for pre-order.
yeah,
It's not like an entire game.
I think that's the World Slayer, and it comes with the game.
okay.
Oh,
I-
so
I
they're selling it as a
in
new
this
edition, like they.
bundle.
Okay.
Yeah, so the actual World Slayer upgrade is $35.99 with Game Pass. Normally
Okay.
$39.99.
Oh.
Is Outrider still in Game Pass?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's still in
Oh,
Game
okay.
I don't think it's gonna leave.
Pass.
Not if, yeah, that's a smart move. Just keep it in, just to make sure they have a steady player base when that
Get
expansion
people
drops.
to buy the expansion.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, I gotta get back into that. Dang. But okay, guys. I think we've covered all that we really needed to for tonight, and man, we covered quite a bit. So we'll start to sunset the show now. Awesome show, as we touched on a bunch of stuff ranging from, well, XCloud and again, like just Xbox Live issues, Embracer Group making a big splash purchase, and well, a lot more, obviously. Naturally, it was fantastic having all of you here tuning in to watch and listen to the show. If you enjoyed the chat tonight, then consider subbing to the channel, dropping a like, and sharing this out across Twitter and other social media outlets. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful moms out there. Hope you had a great day. You all rock. Now let's get over to the show outros, starting off with Eric Shockley. Buddy, I thought you had some really awesome input tonight. Loved your stuff. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah, good show tonight. As always, you can find me at Shofnero on Twitter. Easy. But yeah, good show tonight, and thanks for stopping by.
Totally. Moving on down the list here, Crusader, buddy. Again, you had some really well thought out points. Definitely some were very impassionate at the beginning, and I definitely appreciate that, as well as other people in the chat. Where can everybody follow you?
People can follow me at Crusader3456 on Twitter and on Reddit. It's also my gamer tag if you want to add me and message me on Xbox or PlayStation. Yeah, great show tonight. I had a blast. I was excited for the Embracer Group talk. Embracer Group is like the Wild Wild West for me. So
yeah, they're certainly an interesting player in the gaming sphere nowadays. Like Microsoft, I'm just wondering who they're gonna acquire next. It's crazy because we know that they're gonna acquire more. It's just a matter of when and who. So interesting times ahead. Let's see, moving on down here. Centurion Pal, hey, great stuff tonight. My man 50 Cent, of course. Where can everybody follow you?
Well, gentlemen, it was an awesome show tonight. Great conversation. Had a lot of fun. For those interested, please follow me at Centurion1307 on YouTube, Xbox Live, and of course, Twitter. You can also find me right here every Sunday night, right here on the TXR Podcast with these amazing gentlemen. And you can now find me over on Gaming Beyond the Box with Wilmy Hood, Bomber, and the other amazing individuals that make up that amazing cast over there on his channel. They have welcomed me over there. It takes place every Wednesday at 8 Eastern. Forgive me, I'm still trying to memorize the time. But yeah, it takes place every Wednesday night, 8 Eastern. And I mean, the first show is an absolute blast. And man, I'm looking forward to this for the long run.
They welcomed you? Oh man, I'm gonna have to give Wilmy a talking to. I mean, I thought we had that covered, that he was gonna give you a hard time and whatnot. I mean, wait, I'm saying that out loud. Oops, forget what I said. I'm just kidding, pal. No. Great crew there. I mean, I spoke about before on the last show. Wonderful cast there over at Gaming Beyond the Box. Wilmy, HR Bomber, Lady, Leonidas. I have nothing but good things to say about all of them. Awesome crew, and I call them friends. Because they're really cool people. But no wonder you're having such a fun time there. Definitely an interesting assembly, to say the least. But yeah, guys, to round out tonight's show, this fine group of people, you can find my content on YouTube at Invader Gaming. As well, you can follow me on Twitter at Invader_1986. Fun chat tonight, as always, and I'm already looking forward to the next one, guys. So who knows what we'll wake up to tomorrow. Always something. Who knows who will get acquired or what news will break tomorrow or the next day and so on. But we cannot wait to chat with you next time. Later, guys.